Good morning, everybody. All right, I hope you're having an awesome Sunday so far. I don't know about you guys, but I'm excited to be here. We had a great time with Kona last week. That was fun as well. But I am glad to be here with all of you this morning. The title of my lesson today is Set the World on Fire. Luke chapter 12, verse 49, Jesus said, I have come to bring fire on the earth, and how I wish it was already kindled. James chapter 3 and verse 5, the Bible says, likewise, the tongue is a small part of the body, but it makes great boasts. Consider what a great forest is set on fire by a small spark. Jesus was that spark that set the whole world on fire and literally turned it upside down. He changed history with his life and what he taught to his followers. They taught to everyone and turned that world upside down. Fire can be good and fire can be bad. It can hurt. Fire can burn you. You stick your hand in the fire, you're going to be on fire yourself, right? But fire can also be a good thing when you think about it. When an old forest, is set on fire and it burns and all those ashes fall to the ground, it becomes soil once again. And it's actually healthy, and that forest can heal back even healthier as it grows. Same for us individually. When we get rid of that negativity, we get rid of that sin that's in our life and it's gone, then we can become healthier ourselves spiritually. And when we are healthy ourselves, then our families have an opportunity to be healthier. Our neighborhood and our communities have an opportunity to be healthier spiritually. And even the whole world can be healthier spiritually when we burn out that negativity. And it starts with us individually. It starts with each one of us individually making decisions to change some of the sin or some of the character traits in our lives that are impure before God. The Bible is filled with what we would call negative reinforcement and positive reinforcement. You can look at it negatively like, oh, hey, there is a fire that God's prepared, a lake of fire, and that's kind of a negative thing. Yeah. And you should be afraid of that kind of fire, right? God says, I'm going to come back and I'm going to destroy the whole world with fire. That's some negative reinforcement right there, if you guys know what I mean, right? But the Bible also uses positive reinforcement because there's an opportunity that we have while we're alive to change, to repent, and to glorify God with our lives, and to help other people too as well. And that's positive reinforcement, and God gives us that opportunity. So for us, I know you guys have heard that term, right? I'm fired up about something, right? I'm fired up that my football team won. I'm excited, I'm fired up. And then you're like, oh, I watched my football team lose. I'm so upset right now, I'm fired up, mad. Maybe you're watching politics on the news, and you got kind of fired up and angry. And it fires me up. I can't believe what they just did. You get fired up in that way. It's a negative way and a positive way, right? Today, my goal of our lesson today is to get fired up to be Christians and to follow God. But first, before we do that, we're going to have to get rid of some of that dead wood in our forest, some of that stuff that just doesn't belong there in our own lives, right? And so we can, I just went through this passage in Philippians chapter 4. I've been studying it out, and I've been learning about myself and my flat sides and my character traits that need some work. And we can, I lead the church, but that doesn't mean I'm better than anybody. I'm just like you guys. I'm a normal guy. That's why I don't like to be on the stage like I'm looking down at everybody. Like I'm on the same level as you guys. Get me? You know what I mean? I like this. I don't even like having this big box separating me. I wish I could just sit down right there and just talk to you guys. Sometimes. But anyway, I wanted to get rid of some of the junk out of my lives, so I just gave myself a little discipling time in the Bible, and I'm going to share it with you guys and see if you can use it for yourselves. You know what I mean? So Philippians chapter 4, my first point, fired up for prayer. Philippians chapter 4 and verse 4. The Bible says, rejoice in the Lord always. I will say it again, rejoice. Let your gentleness be evident to all. The Lord is near. Do not be anxious about anything, but in everything by prayer and petition with thanksgiving. Present your requests to God. And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and guard your minds in Christ Jesus. That's incredibly encouraging right now. We have this opportunity today to present our requests to God, and that God will guard our heart. We can put anxiety at God's feet and hand it on over to Him, and He'll take care of all of that. What an incredible opportunity. The word rejoice, right? It's not a word we use too much in society. It's kind of one of them churchy words, right? Rejoice. Rejoice is a verb in that it's an action. It starts with the root verb of joy. So we have joy in our hearts, in our relationship with God, and we show that in our behavior. In fact, we can even give that joy back to God. We can give that joy to each other. When we worship God and we have a great attitude and we're fired up, we can do that. But it starts with prayer, right? When you are joyful, it's evident in your life. It says here that your gentleness will be made evident when you're rejoicing and you're joyful. And it says that you are faithful and you trust God, and God will guard you. He'll guard your heart and your mind like a bodyguard, like Delbert. You ain't getting near this guy. Like if Delbert was standing right here, and he told all of you, you're not getting near David, I'd be fired up right there. It's like, nobody's coming near me. That guy's crazy big and scary looking, you know what I mean? Like if he was guarding Sammy, I wouldn't go by Sammy. It's like, David, that's far enough. You're not getting any closer to Sammy. Gotcha. No problem. I'll just sit down right over here. He's got a grenade tattooed on his foot. That's scary right there. He's got a hand grenade on his foot. Oh my God. But we have a bigger bodyguard than Delbert. We have God guarding us. So it says to rejoice always. You go, okay, rejoice always. That's an interesting concept. Praise God all the time. Be joyful all the time. Now, Paul here, I'm going to get a little technical. Paul here is not speaking about some kind of idiotic or naive state of mind where you're walking around praising and thanking God after you saw a car wreck, or after the loss of a family member, or a brother or sister that walked away from God. It's like, oh, thank God. You know, that's not what he's talking about. He's talking about not being fearful in situations that are outside of our control. Rather, we understand that we are not meant to be in control of all circumstances. We can impact situations. We can have influence over people in certain areas, but we're not meant to control all the circumstances in our life. And we need to rejoice and trust God that He's the one that's in control, and be fired up about it. Even if it's an unfavorable situation, we can understand and have faith and not have anxiety, and understand that God is in control, and that's okay. And we're not meant to control this situation. Because when we are fearful, what we do is we start putting up defense mechanisms to protect ourselves. We start to guard our own heart and our own mind, and we're the one doing the guarding when it's meant to be God doing the guarding. Right? And then of course we pull back from the fellowship. We get critical. We get resentful. We start getting apathetic, and we start going through these different behaviors, and this is what happens to us. And those behaviors, that's the opposite of rejoicing and praising God. That's the opposite of being fired up right there. You know, anxiety and panic attacks, those are real things. This is something that I've struggled with in the past. Anxiety is a feeling of unease, a feeling of worry and fear that something bad is going to happen. A panic attack or an anxiety attack is like, it would be like if you're swimming in the ocean and you come across a big giant angry shark named Scarback, and he's coming towards you and his mouth is open, right? Something would happen to you physiologically, right? You would start shaking and you start having a hard time breathing. Like that, you know, you do something like that, and your heart would be racing uncontrollably, and it'd be just beating super fast, and you'll have no control over these things, and you're having a panic attack, and I know that because that's what happened to me a couple of times. And I'm panicking, you know, like, how am I going to escape? I don't want to die today, you know, and you're freaking out, and that's having an attack. So now a panic or an anxiety attack is like having that reaction, but to something less than death experience, right? Because, you know, if you're in a car wreck, and someone pulls out in front of you, and you're about to crash, you're slamming on your brakes, and everybody's panicking in the car. You know what I mean? Or if the house is on fire, you might want to panic, right? So those are normal situations to panic under, and we should panic if there's a shark trying to eat you. You should probably freak out a little bit, I would say, you know. But having an anxiety attack is like having that reaction when you're like taking the kids to school, and you have a busy day ahead of you. Or maybe you're a little bit behind on your bills and your car breaks down and you start to panic uncontrollably. That's an anxiety or a panic attack, and it's kind of an irrational response to normal stressful situations. Now, soldiers, they'll get these reactions before they go into combat, and even the Navy SEALs, they do these breathing exercises when they're about to breach in through a room and shoot the bad guys because they're nervous, because they're going to be shooting and people are going to be shooting at them, and so they're like... So they do these breathing exercises to calm themselves down so that they can be controlled in the situation and not accidentally shoot one of their guys or something like that, or get themselves a mistake and get themselves killed too. Because it's dangerous what they do, right? So for us, we have to understand that when these things happen to us and if we're living our life that way, it's not really healthy for us as disciples. And the Bible says that we can cast our anxieties on God. Now, it becomes a problem for us when, like I said, when that fear is irrational, when nothing really bad is happening to you. Now, living in a state of anxiety or anxiousness for an extended period of time is unhealthy for us, for our bodies. It can raise our blood pressure. It releases chemicals in our body that weakens our immune system even, and we can get sick. You have this underlying fear, and you're going around and you think that something bad is going to happen to you, and you spend your life coping with it, or trying to avoid situations that are uncomfortable, and you're trying to dodge these situations so that you don't experience worry or fear. The worst thing you can do for someone who is anxious is to overprotect them. It makes them worse. What you do for hyper-anxious people is gradually expose them to increasingly threatening situations. That cures them. This is what a clinical psychologist wrote. It's funny, we went for Michelle's 21st birthday. She's like, is there any place on the Big Island to go cliff diving? And I'm like, yes, let's go to Coconut Island. And so we go to Coconut Island, right? And so there's the different levels. There's the low level. There's the medium level, and then there's the one that's about maybe 15 feet, it's like way up there level. And so increasing heights, right? So we take her there, and we take her to the medium level one. I'm like, okay, Michelle, the little kids are doing it, the old man is doing it, you can do it too. You know, she's like, I'm afraid of heights, and she's like anxious and shaking, and finally we talk her into it, and she like jumps off into the water, and she's like screaming, ah, splat, you know. And the kids are all, do the flying Hawaiian. I'm like, that's the howly flop. We're all having a great time, you know, we're having fun, we're jumping, but there's the high one. And there's this little kid jumping off the high one, and the old man jumping off the high one, and Michelle's like, I want to try the high one, but I'm afraid of heights. I have anxiety when I'm up high. And so I'm like, you can do it, sis, it's not that bad, but you got to have the strength to climb up the rock wall to get to the top one, or you won't be able to do it. I'm not going to help you up there. If you want to jump off the high one, you got to get up there on your own. So she like braves it, hold my glasses, you know, climbs up there, and she's like, all right, I'm going to do it. And she runs to the edge and she stops. She's like, I'm so scared, I can't do it. And this goes on, running up to the edge and stopping for about 30 minutes. I'm so anxious, and she's shaking, and her heart's racing, and she's having an anxiety attack, brought upon by her own behavior and her own decisions, and she's too prideful to climb back down. The only way down is to jump. So finally, she jumps. Ah, splat! But for her 21st birthday, she jumped off the high one. She overcame her anxiety, overcame her fear of falling, overcame her fear of landing, overcame her fear of Scarback eating her when she lands. And so we can overcome these things. It can be done if we cast it upon God. You know, Jordan Peterson is I would say he's a secular hero of mine. He's a clinical psychologist. And I'm going to read something that he wrote about anxiety. And it really relates to this passage. See, Dr. Peterson explained something that the Bible knew thousands of years ago, because Jesus is way more wise than Jordan Peterson. Check this out. If someone's anxious about something and it's getting in their way, you take what they're anxious about and you define it. Because that already delimits it. One of the problems with being anxious about something is you won't speak of it. It's like Voldemort. And then if you don't speak of it, it's way bigger than it should be. As soon as you start talking about it, you cut it down to size. You're not afraid of as many things as you think. And you're braver and more capable than you know. So as soon as you're brave enough to start talking about what you're afraid of, you see there's more to you than you thought. And there's less to the problem than you thought. And then you can deconstruct it further into smaller problems. And then figure out how to approach those smaller problems. It doesn't seem to me that you get less frightened. It seems that you get more courageous, which is better than being less frightened. So if you're courageous, that really does the trick. See, he explained here what the Bible already knew. You talk about your fear, your worry, what you're afraid of. You talk about it to God. You talk about it in prayer. And you talk about it with your brothers and sisters, and you pray with them together. You vocalize these things. Not just a quick little, God, I'm so afraid, please keep me safe. No. Be specific in your prayer when you're talking to God about what's scaring you, what's worrying you, what's stressing you out. Some of them may be legitimate, some of them may be illegitimate fears. It doesn't matter. Talk about it to God in prayer. It's incredibly powerful. Then, of course, you can have this miraculous peace of God that transcends all understanding. It says it's beyond what we understand. It's a peace that we don't know anything of until we spend that time in prayer with God. And sometimes you got to pray until you get to that peace. Don't stop until you get there. And it's miraculous, and God has it available for you and me today. You know, Jesus, in the face of great danger, didn't give way to his fear. When he was on trial before the Sanhedrin, he proclaimed that he was indeed the Son of God, and he would come back in his glory, and that they would see that. And he knew that those words would convict him, and that would arrest him, beat him, and murder him, yet he was not afraid in the face of great danger. He instilled that same kind of bravery and boldness into his apostles and disciples of the day. Peter and John, when they were in the Sanhedrin, by these same people that murdered Jesus, said they proclaimed to them boldly, salvation is found in no one else, for there is no other name under heaven given to men by which we must be saved. When they saw the courage of Peter and John and realized that they were unschooled, ordinary men, they were astonished, and they took note that these men had been with Jesus. He instilled that same kind of courage and bravery into those that followed him. See, you don't become less fearful, you become more faithful. Because you know without a doubt that God is promising to guard your heart and your mind from the worry, from the doubt, from the fear, from the insecurity. We have a shield of God guarding us. And it's incredibly powerful. I want to challenge the church here to partner up with someone this week. Spend some time with another disciple, maybe somebody that you don't spend time with normally. And just have an awesome prayer time. Have a great and powerful prayer time. Get open about your worry. Get open about your fear. Talk about it. And then, after that, you can rejoice with thanksgiving. And you can represent your requests to God, and he'll give you the desires of your heart. He wants to give you the desires of your heart. All you need to do is cast it onto his feet. Point number 2, fired up about whatevers. You guys know that term? Whatevers. Yeah, whatevers. You guys want to go to the beach or you want to go to the park? Whatevers. And it's kind of like a I don't care kind of attitude, you know? It's like, what do you guys want to eat? Whatevers. You know what I mean? You decide. I'm indecisive. Whatevers. And so that kind of a little bit of an apathetic response to a question, whatevers. And so I'm going to baptize that term right now in the scriptures. Okay, you guys ready? Right now. Check this out. This is not an apathetic response, right? Verse 8, chapter 4. Finally, brothers, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things. Whatever you have learned or have heard from me or seen in me, put it into practice, and the God of peace will be with you. The first section was like, there's a peace of God, and now it's the God of peace. Man, I love God. He doesn't want to destroy everything. He wants peace. That's what he wants. But there is stuff in the world that needs to be destroyed. There's negativity out there, right? He wants us to have this positive influences. Where do we get that? Man, we get that with each other. We get that with the fellowship of believers. We get that with our great relationships that we get to have. We get that from the scriptures, the positive influences into our mind. What goes in must come out, right? You know, lots of sickness going on. There's a handful of, a large amount of our congregation is out today because of illnesses. We have 3 disciples with COVID. We have Alika Pekka in the hospital right now. Please continue to pray. She's got a high fever. And, we got sick in our house. Our whole house got sick, like almost everybody. We had stomach flu going through my house. We got tested for COVID. It wasn't COVID. It was some kind of stomach flu. There was fevers. There was body aches. People were throwing up all over the place. I got sick myself. I thought I had the stomach flu. I had a diverticulitis infection in my lower abdomen. And I got really, really sick. And I had to go to the emergency room. And I'm sitting in the emergency room for 4 hours in pain. It was sharp pains. It felt like someone's inside of me with an ice pick trying to get out. And I got a fever, my back is killing me, and in 4 hours I'm sitting there, and there's sick people all around me. There's some poor person on drugs yelling and screaming and cussing at the nurses, and there's just a lot of illness going on, a lot of negativity, and it kind of gets you down, I'm like, man, a lot of people are sick right now. And so yesterday I'm thinking, I need to study out, like, what's the deal with illness? Like, what does our body actually do when we get sick? How do we get sick? And what's up with all these symptoms of being sick, right? So it's pretty interesting when I found out. So basically what happens is these invisible viruses and germs and bacteria that are floating around, right? And they're trying to find our way into our body. When God created us beautifully and wonderfully. He built us with this amazing skin sac that covers our body, and some of us like to paint on it and stuff like that, right? But it's amazing, it's incredible, and it keeps stuff out of us, but there's ways in. You can get a cut, right? And a bacteria can get in through a cut when you go into the ocean, or a scrape or something like that. Maybe you pick a penny up off the ground, I scored a penny, but maybe that penny's got a virus on it, and you rub your eye, and now through the mucous membrane, the virus gets into your body, right? Or maybe someone sneezes and you walk through the mist, and it's getting inside, woo, and then all of a sudden you got a virus in your nose, and your body sneezing is trying to get the virus out of your nostril. That's what the sneezing is for, to get out. And it goes, woo, and somebody else catches it. And it's the way with the mask. Or you do this when you sneeze, right? So anyway, but these different ways, like we can get a bacteria piggybacking on some spoiled food and get into our body and make us want to puke, right? And so when these cells get into our body and they mutate and they grow and they replicate in our body, inside of our body at a cellular level, our body is incredible how God made our body, how our immune system works, right? Our immune system kicks into overdrive. As soon as it detects this foreign negative objects and cells come in our body, it starts producing white blood cells. And our lymph nodes can swell up, and it starts circulating, the blood starts circulating, and our white blood cells come out of our bone marrow even, and it's going through our body, and it's looking for these invading cells, and it's attacking them and killing them. Right? And our body is so incredible that, like, the first time you're exposed to a new virus, it takes a little while for your body to get through it. It takes some time. But when you get over, when it kills those cells and boots them out through the hanabatas, it's gone, and the puking is gone, it's all gone, and you healed up. That virus comes back a year later, and your body remembers you, and those white blood cells remember how to attack it, and it kills it even faster because our immune system is strong. And it's wonderful, but the way God made it. It's amazing what our body goes through. Like, okay, what's up with the fever, the body aches? Well, that's indicators to show us that there's something going on. Something's not right. And so we get these uncomfortable feelings, and it lets us know that inside of us there's a battle and a war raging against the invading cells right there. They're against the negativity, right? And it lets us know that's why we're sick and we're coughing, our throat hurts, and we have the body aches, so we know that something's going on. Then we know we need to rest, and drink lots of fluids, and take some vitamins, And the thing about these things, these illnesses and these bacteria and these viruses and stuff like that. There's nothing you can do to completely and totally protect yourself from them. You could be a hermit out in the middle of nowhere and you could still get some bacteria in you. You know what I mean? You can have vaccines and you can take medication and those things can help alleviate and lessen the odds, but you're always going to get exposed to these things. And God made it that way, and he has a purpose behind it, and that's his deal. And it's not up to us to go, why would you do that to me in the moment or station in life? It is what it is. You know what I mean? But there is something that we can do. We can strengthen our immune system, because the most powerful tool we have against these illnesses is to have a strong immune system. To eat healthy and to work out and to exercise and to drink Kangen water, which has been helping us, shameless plug there, But it's to have that healthy immune system. That's what can help us to endure these things, right? And we have low stress and we have good exercise, our immune system be in peak form to prevent us from being physically ill. Spiritually, it's the same way when you really think about it, And for us, when there's negative influences coming into our lives and we're being bombarded by it, and we don't have a strong spiritual immune system, we're vulnerable to being attacked and sickened by all the negativity that is out there coming on us. I made a huge mistake the other day. I woke up in the morning, and before I had my nice quiet time with God and read my Bible and had a good prayer, I made a mistake. I picked up my phone and I decided to see what was on the news. Oh boy, that was a big mistake. What did I find out when I was watching? Oh, there's an abortion debate going on right now, right? People are cultish and fanatical about wanting to murder children before they're born. And they're freaking out about it, and they're attacking people around the country. And there's a big, huge debate about it. I found out that there's the war is still going on. And there's civilians are having giant bombs dropped on them, and children are being killed, and women are being raped in these places around the world. And it's not just Ukraine. There's other places that have these terrible genocidal wars going on. And there's a negative influence coming in there, right? I found out there's a huge crime wave going on. The murder rates are way up, way up in some of our cities across the country. The crime is just out of control, and there's this negativity coming on. And you don't even get me started on the politics of these days, what's going on in politics. Let's not even go there. Because after that, I was like, man, I'm bitter now. Now I'm bitter, Now I'm sick spiritually after reading all these things. And that was just in 5 minutes. It was like 5 minutes of reading the news. And I got bombarded with the negativity right there before I got my time with God. I didn't put my spiritual armor on first. Now, it's not wrong to be updated on what the news is happening around the world. I think we should be informed. But if we're letting that negativity get in there and infect us, it's like eating food, like something really, really sickening and rotten, and you eat it and then you vomit it up, and it's even worse than before. You know what I mean? It's even worse and more gross than before, right? That's what food poisoning. So for us, what we do is we bombard ourselves with good things, right? This positive stuff, the whatever stuff. We bring that stuff into our lives through reading the Bible, through fellowshipping with each other, through prayer. And then when that goodness comes in, that's what the goodness that can come right back out. And that's amazing. That's what we can do. And the negative influences are always going to be there. But if we put the Word of God into us first, then it'll protect us. And it won't allow that outside negativity to create us to become negative as well. I want to lift up the teenagers here that are graduating. We got Austin and Rowan, Nicole, and Starley all graduating high school. How exciting. And they're heading into summer break. They're like, I don't care about whatever, as long as I'm not in high school no more, And so here's the thing, they're going to be going into summer break, and they might be tempted to get lazy and hang out and just cruise and not do anything, right? There's a temptation of that, right? Going into college, right? High school, the temptations are pretty crazy. College is kind of next level. You're going to get bombarded with negativity in college, right? There's going to be a lot of temptations out there. There's going to be a lot of negative influences. You got to armor up. You got to make sure that you stay attached and connected to the fellowship of believers. Stay close to the family of God. I want to encourage, and this is for all of us, like every single one of us. Our closest relationships have got to be with like-minded disciples of Jesus. If our closest relationships are not with like-minded disciples of Jesus, then we're going to be vulnerable. That's going to happen. You'll have a much, much higher chance of getting spiritually sick. I want to encourage all of us to just be vigilant, stay together. We're heading into summer break. Heading into summer break for all of us, the heat's coming. We got to make sure that we stay healthy spiritually. I want to challenge everybody here. For this summer, this is a challenge I want to put out to the whole church, to work out your physical and spiritual body. I want to encourage everybody to incorporate a walk or a workout into your D times. Beth and I, it's been a game changer. We're getting together with Shane and Crystal Emerson on Wednesday mornings. And we go over to the house and we have an awesome discipling time with the Bible on a Wednesday morning. And we go through the scriptures and we get some spiritual strengthening. And then we do a crazy hardcore workout with Shane and Crystal. And then, so if I'm hard on them with the scriptures, he's harder on me with the workout there. So it kind of depends how I feel that morning. Do we go to Revelations today or Psalms? I don't know. We'll see. But we're getting this incredible spiritual and physical healthiness about our lives. You know, when I was landscaping, I was working out a lot. I surfed a lot more in Kona and whatnot. But over here, I gained 10 pounds. I gained 10 pounds. It's not. I know it's not that much, but I don't feel as healthy as I could be. And I've been getting sick this year more than I've ever been sick in my life in different areas. So I'm going to drink that Kangen water. I'm going to do those workouts. But I'm going to stay in my Bible, more importantly, because physical training is of some value. Spiritual training, now that's got some value right there. So, but it has to be a combination of both. We want to have a healthy spirit and a healthy body and a healthy mind. Why not? Well, why do that to ourselves? God blessed us with all these incredible, amazing, beautiful, healthy bodies. Let's take care of them and the spirit that goes inside of them. Amen? Point number 3. I couldn't think of a very catchy title for this one, so I just put Fired Up to be Content. I hope you're content with my title at that point. Philippians chapter 4 and verse 10. The Bible here says, I rejoice greatly in the Lord that at last you have renewed your concern for me. Indeed, you have been concerned, but you had no opportunity to show it. I am not saying this because I am in need, for I have learned to be content, whatever the circumstances. I know what it is to be in need, and I know what it is to have plenty. I have learned the secret of being content in any and every situation, whether well-fed or hungry, whether living in plenty or in want. I can do everything through Him who gives me strength. So Paul here is fired up. He says, I'm content. No matter what's happening around me, I'm okay with that. The word content means well pleased. I'm well pleased with everything that's happened around me. And I have this secret. I have this secret about how I have arrived at this state of mind. It's through Christ who gives me strength. In 1 Timothy 6:6, he says, but godliness with contentment is great gain. I love that passage. I love that concept. And it's a really hard thing to do, honestly. To tell you the truth, it's hard to be content. It's not easy at all. Especially when things aren't going the way that would normally fire me up. You know what I mean? Like if my wife and I aren't getting along, or if the kids are a bit unruly, if the ministry's not healthy, if there's people are squabbling with each other, I have a hard time being content with that. And I don't think that's what Paul means here. I think that if you're okay with those types of scenarios in your life, you're not content, you're complacent. Complacent and content is different. We'll get into that a little bit later. And so people are like, oh gosh, another surfing story. Well, I can't tell doing your nails stories and sewing stories. I just don't know that kind of stuff. I know surfing stories, all right? So I'm surfing out at the beach, okay? So I was surfing at this spot, right? And it was a really good day, right? But it was late in the evening when I finally got in the water after work, and I wanted to catch some waves before it got dark. And so I'm out there, and the waves are actually really big this day. Big on my scale. You guys know what I'm talking about, right? Like 10 feet, maybe 20 feet. Anyways, and I'm out there, and the sun goes down, and it's dark, and I'm kind of far out at sea. And I'm like, man, I don't want to just paddle in, because one of these big waves might catch me, because there's a shallow shelf on the inside of sharp rocks. And so I need to catch a wave in, but I can barely see, it's so dark. And so I see this shadow looming, and it's this big wave. I'm like, all right, this is my last chance. I need to catch this wave in. This is getting scary out here. So I'm riding the wave. I'm flying down, like on my bodyboard. I'm like laying down, just flying like 80 miles an hour, probably 20, and just flying across, right? And I see the wave. Now, check this out, guys. The wave is starting to break in front of me as I'm trying to go around this section and dodge the rocks. And I'm like, oh, man, I'm not going to make it. So I'm like trying to pull towards the shore. And the shore is like over that way. And I'm going in. I'm flying in the flats. And I'm watching this avalanche coming down behind me, right? And then out of the corner of my eye, I see some movement. I'm like, what's that? And then right in front of me, like super close, I see this guy on his surfboard, and I recognize him in an instant. I know that guy. It's this big moke guy, and he doesn't really like me that much. And he's right in my path. I know him. We know each other, like make lock eyes like that. And he's like, it's you. And I'm like, it is you. And he's like, he ditches his surfboard, and he's this big giant moke guy. He's like ditches right in front of me, and I'm like, oh. And there's no brakes on the wave. You just got to go. You got to go, And so I'm going. And I'm flying. And so attached to his surfboard is this, what they call a leash. Right, it's this rubber strap. It's like round and it's stretchy. You can pull it, and it's meant to attach mokes to their surfboard. When a big wave hits them, so they don't lose their board, they can get their board back. It doesn't wash all the way in. That's what the leash is for. Dubber knows what I'm talking about. He uses the leash, right? You don't want to swim in, right? Guy kind of looked like you too, just darker. But anyways. So his leash his board's flying in the air. He's diving to the bottom to try to avoid the collision. And there's the leash right across me like a clothesline, across my chest, like that, And I'm going super fast, 80 or 20. And then I stop because I hit the leash wall, And then the wave hits me. And then all the three of us, four of us, the surfboard, the bodyboard, the moke, and me, and my leash, and we're tangled. I'm like this underwater, upside down. And all of a sudden I find myself hog-tied under the water like this, with my legs tied to my hands tied to my legs. And it's pulling, the leash and the moke are pulling like this, like a knot. And I'm in the middle of the knot, under the water, with the waves above me. And I'm struggling. I panic for a moment. And I'm like, I can't get out of this. I'm like really stuck here. And there's no way out. And I thought to myself, in that moment, I'm going to die right now. I'm going to drown. I'm under the water. I don't know which way is up. I can't, it's black down there, and the moke is kicking me, the board's conking my head, I'm just drowning. I'm drowning, And I started to think, I said, well, this is it. I'm going to die. And I got content in that moment for a second there. And then I started thinking, I'm going to die, and I'm going to go to heaven. And then I started to rejoice. I'm like, I'm gonna see Jesus today. And I'm rejoicing now. I'm like, this is awesome, But then I thought, then I kind of came to my senses there. Like, wait a minute. I don't want to die right now, actually. Like drowning, I don't want to drown. I got kids to take care of, I have responsibilities back in the world. I can't just check out and give up right now. Like, there's still stuff that needs to get done. There's bills to be paid. I can't just die right here. And this is all happening in a period of about 10 seconds, Felt like an hour, All this stuff. This literally probably happened in about 15 seconds, all of that, to get to that point. So I'm like, there is something I can do. I don't have to just give up and roll over and take it. I can do something. And I found what little strength that I have in God. And I had one free leg. And I just started kicking with that one leg. I was like, I'm just going to kick with this one leg and see what happens. And this board's conking me in the head like this, But the board floats. And it's going up as I'm kicking. And I break the surface. And there's the moke. He's looking at me. We're still attached. And he's like, are you all right? I'm like, take off your leash. I'm tangled up. He can't. I'm like drowning still, like trying to keep myself head above water with my one foot. It's pretty funny. I wish I had a video. Viral. So anyway, I'm still tangled up, and I just break this on my watch. So I break my watch, and my watch goes flying. And I get free of this guy and get to the beach. I'm fired up. I'm alive today. But what it was is God just gave me that strength. He has plans for me. I'm not supposed to die on that day. I don't know what, like with my luck, with all those near-death experiences, I'll probably just slip in the shower and break my neck and drown or something. I don't know. Like, of all the heroic ways I could have died, He died saving all the little children in the ocean. What a hero. No, he slipped in the shower. Broke his neck. Drowned in the drain. Oh my gosh. Second Chronicles chapter 16 verse 9 says, "For the eyes of the Lord range throughout the earth to strengthen those whose hearts are fully committed to him." You know, I had a marriage counseling time a while back with a couple, and they were trying to figure out the difference between contentment and complacency. And so the couple had this interesting dynamic where one thought everything was fine, it doesn't matter, this is the way it is. And the other, no, everything's wrong and it's a mess and we need to fix this. And don't try to figure out who it was, there's nobody in this room. But they're just trying to get back, because we just did this awesome Bible study about it, you know. And neither of them, I would say, were in the wrong. They just need to come a little more to the middle together. It wasn't like a bad thing. It wasn't a negative argument or nothing like that. They just had a disagreement with each other about what the situation they were in their life. It's like, I shouldn't just be content if I'm not losing weight. I need to do something about it. I'm like, yes, if something's wrong and you can do something about it, do something about it. Don't just be complacent and not do anything. See, being content means to be pleased. Content does not mean staying in a house that's on fire. Content does not mean you have to drown if you're tangled up. It means you can fight for it, right? Content does not mean you shouldn't try to improve your station in life. You should try to improve your station in life, whether it be your finances or your life circumstances, whatever. It's okay to try and improve it. But being complacent means saying, I know that there's a problem. I know that something's not right here, but I don't want to do anything about it. I'm unaware of it. And it's like being satisfied with the status quo and having a self-satisfaction accompanied by an unawareness of actual dangers. It's an apathetic mindset. You would say things are not going well, and I don't care. It's no big deal. It just is what it is. That's complacency. It's like standing in line at the bank, and you know that it's possible that the person standing in front of you in line at the bank maybe that person was crying out to God last night and begging, God, please show me that you're real. I don't know if I can believe in you. My life is so bad, and I feel like I'm going to take my own life. Just show me a sign that you're there, God. And God puts you in line behind this person at the bank that's going to go and withdraw his bank account and get a bunch of drugs and commit suicide that day. Being complacent is, maybe you don't know that that's what's happening there, but being complacent is that knowing it's possible and you're not doing anything about it. That's what complacency looks like. You know, there are quite a few parables about complacency in the Bible. You could read about the wise and foolish builder in Matthew chapter 7. Let's go there. Matthew chapter 7. Because complacency is not going to help us. Being content will. Matthew chapter 7, in verse 24. Therefore, everyone who hears these words of mine and puts them into practice is like a wise man who built his house on the rock. The rain came down, the streams rose, and the winds blew and beat against that house, yet it did not fall because it had its foundation on the rock. That's a wise man who is content to do God's will. Verse 26, but everyone who hears these words of mine and does not put them into practice is like a foolish man who built his house on sand. The rain came down, the streams rose, and the winds blew and beat against that house, and it fell with a great crash. That is the complacent man, the fool, who did not heed Jesus' words, and everything was lost. Complacency is destructive. You could read about the parable of the rich fool in Luke. We don't have to turn there. It's in Luke chapter 12. About the man who says, I'm going to eat, I'm going to drink, and I'm going to be merry, and my life is going to be amazing. And God says, no, you're a fool. If you're not rich towards God, you could be destroyed tonight. And what good would everything that you've gained do you? That's a complacent man, the rich fool. The Bible warns us in Hebrews chapter 2. Let's check it out. And I think this is something that's so important for us to understand as a church that's trying to set the world on fire. Hebrews chapter 2 and verse 1. Give me an amen when you guys get there. Amen. Hebrews chapter 2 and verse 1. The Bible says, we must pay more careful attention, therefore, to what we have heard, so that we do not drift away. For if the message spoken by angels was binding, and every violation and disobedience received is just punishment, how shall we escape if we ignore such a great salvation? This salvation, which was first announced by the Lord, was confirmed to us by those who heard him. God also testified to it by signs, wonders, and various miracles, and gifts of the Holy Spirit distributed according to his will. This is amazing, powerful scripture right here. This is what needs to move us, to never be complacent and to always be content with our salvation. It reminds us of what God's done for us. God has done so much for all of us. It's unfathomable how much he's done for us. And it's not that we owe him or that we can ever repay that debt. That's impossible. We can never repay that. But when we rejoice in our salvation and we are content with our salvation, and only that, we'll be grateful, and the God of peace will rule in our lives. That's incredible. I love that. Christianity then no longer is a burden. It's no longer I have to make missions. It's I get to make missions. It's no longer I have to have a D time. It's I get to have a D time and a prayer time with my brother and sister and get a workout in. I get to do that. It's not I have to go to another church meeting. No, it's I get to go to another church meeting. And I'm fired up about it. And speaking of special missions, Robbie gave me an awesome number here about a special mission, that this is not a debt that we had to pay. This is not an amount that we owe anybody. It's a goal that was given to our church, and then we worked for it. And we went after it. And I want to lift this church up. You guys did an amazing job so far, and there's still some more coming in. We're trying to get to 39,193, and of this moment, 42,579. So great job, Hilo International Christian Church. I'm super proud of all of you. Thank you so much for your hard work and your sacrifice. It's going to go a long way. I want to read a story in Acts chapter 16. I know we're running long here. Is that okay? We could read one more passage, a couple more passages here. Acts chapter 16. I think this is a powerful, what we just read through. What does this look like? What does this look like in the Bible? Like, we just read these concepts and these ideas, right? What does it look like lived out? In Acts chapter 16, we have an interesting story here where Paul and Silas are arrested and thrown into prison. In verse 22, you guys everybody there? 16:22? The Bible says, the crowd joined in the attack against Paul and Silas, and the magistrates ordered them to be stripped and beaten. After they had been severely flogged, and they were thrown into prison, and the jailer was commanded to guard them carefully. Upon receiving such orders, he put them in the inner cell and fastened their feet in the stocks. Now keep in mind that the prisons back in this city, in Ephesus here, they were in the sewage. The prisons were in the sewage. So it wasn't treated sewage, it was raw sewage that ran beneath the city, and that's where they would chain these people up after they had been severely beaten with bloody wounds. Talk about getting some bacteria coming into your body there, right? 25, about midnight, Paul and Silas were praying and singing hymns to God. They're rejoicing somehow. And the other prisoners were listening to them. They were giving that joy to other people. Suddenly, there was such a violent earthquake that the foundation of the prison were shaken. At once, all the prison doors flew open, and everybody's chains came loose. The jailer woke up, and when he saw the prison doors open, he drew his sword and was about to kill himself because he thought the prisoners had escaped. But Paul shouted, "Don't harm yourselves, we're all here." The jailer called for lights, rushed in, and fell trembling before Paul and Silas. They were having a panic attack. This guy was having a panic attack because he had a near-death experience. He almost died in his own sword. You see, if prisoners escaped, they blamed the jailer, and they killed the jailer, and they killed the jailer's family. So he thought he would kill himself and make it look like the prisoners murdered him and escaped, thus saving his family. But Saul said, "Wait, don't harm yourself. It's just us, we're still here." And he's like trembling, having a panic attack. Verse 30 said, he then brought them out and asked, "Sirs, what must I do to be saved?" Nothing like a near-death experience to bring you close to God, right? Verse 31, they replied, "Believe in our Lord Jesus and you will be saved, you and your household." Then they spoke the word of the Lord to him and all the others in the house. At that hour of the night, the jailer took them and washed their wounds. And immediately he and all his family were baptized. So this is an incredible story of what it looks like when people are fired up, bold, courageous, content, and rejoicing in any and all situations. I don't know about you guys, but I've bemoaned my station in life and complained about my circumstances. Sitting in that emergency room just a couple of days ago, I was definitely grumbling in my heart about my station in life. I'm sitting in there, I'm complaining, I'm bummed because my wife and kids are back home puking, and I'm in this thing with this doggone infection in my stomach. It still hurts a little bit, and I'm not complaining, and I'm just letting you know. So if you want, in case you want to feel sorry for me. The pity party, you guys get that, right? The bemoaning your station in life. We've all been there, I think. I don't know if it's just me, but I don't know, maybe. But look at these guys, the example of these bold and courageous disciples in a really bad situation. And God dealt with it, and they could have died. Maybe they were rejoicing because they were going to get executed. Like, we're going to see Jesus today. No more beatings. No more sitting in poop and blood, you know. I can die today and go to heaven. And God's like, no, not yet. You're going to save this whole family. That's pretty incredible. What an inspiring, encouraging story. You would say, well, that happened so long ago. It's not like that today. Yes, it is like that today. The Word of God doesn't change. The concepts in the Bible are still there. They're very applicable. The Word of God is alive, and it's active, and it's the same thing for us today. My challenge to all of us this morning is fully commit yourselves to God, and He will strengthen you. If you're visiting and you want to know what that means, ask the person that invited you to study the Bible. If you have been struggling with complacency, make some decisions to change. Be open, pray about it, and find what little strength you have and really go for it. You know, in closing, back in Philippians chapter 4. Come on, bro. Philippians chapter 4, in verse 14, the Bible says, "Yet it was good of you to share in my troubles. Moreover, as you Philippians know, in the early days of your acquaintance with the gospel, when I set out from Macedonia, not one church shared with me in the matter of giving and receiving, except you only. For even when I was in Thessalonica, you sent me aid again and again, when I was in need. Not that I am looking for a gift, but I am looking for what may be credited to your account. I have received full payment and even more. I am amply supplied, now that I have received from Epaphroditus the gifts you sent. They are a fragrant offering, an acceptable sacrifice, pleasing to God. And my God will meet all your needs according to His glorious riches in Christ Jesus." And that's what our special missions does. It's not, like I said, it's not something we owe, but it is a payment that got paid and went way over. I'm super proud of this church. I especially want to lift up Eli and Moani Lomax. Now, what an incredible example. They're not with us today because baby's sick right now. But man, I tell you, they had a pretty high goal that they were trying to reach, and they actually went $1,000 over their goal. $1,000 over. Now, if you guys know Eli, he works a very physically demanding job. He has a hard job. And his wife stays at home and watches the kids, and they don't have a lot of money. He doesn't make a ton of money, but he went over his goal because he's sacrificial like that, and he wants to help supply the missionaries that are out there right now. These missionaries back then have the same needs. Like it took money back then to get on a boat and sail somewhere. It took money to stay in an inn or to feed his companions. It's the same thing for our missionaries today. It takes money to fly places. It takes money to pay rent. It takes money to eat. And that's what the supplies of this money goes to. And Eli and Moani, not only did they go over, they had a separate bank account that they keep on the side. They put money in from time to time in case disciples here in the church need help. And so he asked me, he said, "I got a couple grand more. Is there anything I can do to help some other disciples make their missions?" And so they bought some stuff from Kainala, so he went over on his missions because he was selling his earbuds and stuff. They had other disciples come over and do some yard work or whatever for them, and they went over on their missions as well. So they not only went over on theirs, they helped other people as well. And what an amazing example they are to the church. And I just really wanted to lift them up, and this whole church. Everyone who gave so sacrificially, thank you all so much. I'm very, very proud of all of you. And I did want to read, I did really want to read this real quick here. This is an email from Kip. He had some amazing news that I want to share with all of you. It is in my photo gallery here, sorry. So Kip McKean's 93-year-old mother was baptized. Wow. And so he sent an email. Yeah, isn't that amazing? And I want to read this email to you guys, just a short portion of it. It's so encouraging. I was like choking up a little bit there. It says, when we arrived this morning for the baptism, Mom greeted us and said, I read my Bible last night, and afterward I couldn't sleep all night, as I was so nervous and excited. The others attending in person for the pre-baptism sharing at Mom's home were Martin and Carmen Bentley of the Orlando ICC, Dr. Jim and Lynn Miner of the Orlando ICOC, which were Dad and Mom's cardiologists, and Elena and me. On FaceTime were my brother Randy and his wife Kay of the Maui ICOC, my sister Dana of the Camarillo Mainline Church of Christ, and my niece Brittany of the Columbia, Missouri ICOC. Later, my nephew Kent McKean of the Austin ICOC joined us at the baptism. The sharing was incredible since I had been dreaming about this day for 50 years. I began the sharing by reading Psalm 126. When the Lord restored the fortunes of Zion, we were like men who dreamed. Our mouths were filled with laughter, our tongues with songs of joy. Then it was said among the nations, the Lord has done great things for them. The Lord has done great things for us, and we are filled with joy. Everyone shared both in person and online. Many tears were shed. Mom was greatly humbled as she felt so loved and appreciated. Then we drove to the pool where I was so honored to baptize Mom and now greet her as my sister. Truly, we are filled with joy. What an incredible story. To set this world on fire, we gotta rejoice. Be fired up in prayer. We got to be fired up about the positive influences in our lives, the fellowship of believers. To set this world on fire, we got to be fired up about whatever situation God puts us in. Summer break is here. Let's all be fired up and bring the heat to our friends, family, and neighbors. I love you guys all. Thank you so much. All the while.